is there ever too much money in like a bank savings account or like a high yield savings account, not in the market? And are there any rules of thumb that you should follow?
Yeah. Well, there's rules of thumb, and then there's just what really happens. So, I've been doing this for a long time. I get asked a lot. That I get asked that a lot. Matter of fact, I just got that asked, last week. And so here's one rule of thumb is have 3 months worth of need. So if I need, and just make up a number here, $5,000 a month, I would have 15,000 in savings. Okay, so that's one rule of thumb. You see that quite often. Another rule of thumb would be to figure out, what you need after your other incomes are coming in. So let's just say I'm retired and I have $2,000 coming in from Social Security, and I'm spending a total of 5,000. So I need 3,000 coming in from my investments. Well, investments can kind of, fall and come back up, right? And it depends on how much you have in bonds as to how fast it might come back up, because that really determines how much it might fall. But if you look at the S&P 500, for example, in 2000 and 2008, it was really 5 years from the peak, in 2000 to getting back the peak of 2008, which was actually 2007. But to get back, it was 5 years. And the three big downturns that have happened since World War II that are 40% or more, the average recovery time is 58 months. So there you go. It's basically 5 years. So you could say, well, then I want to make sure that if the market falls, I have 5 years worth of my net need, which is 3,000 a month. So 3,000 times 60 months is 180,000. So there's another number you could use as far as that goes. So these are kind of the rules of thumb. Now you might reduce that. If I only have 50% in the market and 50% out, I could probably cut that in half and say 90,000 works, because it doesn't fall as much, comes back faster, right? But anyway, but you could throw most of those out the window. Sometimes they're useful. They're good. They're good thoughts. The calculation behind them makes some sense, and I get it as far as that goes. But what I have found is that how much money is in cash is an emotional response, not so much a calculated, response. So, I have clients that think $5,000 in the bank system is too much because they like to have everything invested all the time. They're just very aggressive. I have clients that think 500,000 is not enough because it just makes them uncomfortable to not have enough money, right? And so I think that's where I would start. If I'm sitting there thinking about my financial situation and I think about how much I have in the banks, what makes me comfortable? I mean, retirement is partly about your experience, and being uncomfortable is not, ideal, right? It happens. But that's an area that you might be able to get to a comfort level. And so whenever I talk to clients, I'm just trying to determine what it is, what makes them feel comfortable. So if they have 500,000, if we go back to a rule of thumb and they only need, 180,000 or 90,000 or something, then theoretically they have too much and they should have that in there. If their plan still works with that 500,000 sitting there, because that's another issue, right? What if your plan doesn't work because you have too much cash? Then you're going to end up in another uncomfortable situation at some point in the future. So, assuming your plan works, then hey, ask yourself, is that too much or not enough? When I think about it, do I feel good, or I feel like, I should have more of it working? Then that'll answer your question. So if you think 500 makes you feel good, then that's the number. If you think it's too much and maybe via the rules you should only have 100,000, then yeah, you can probably invest some of that. But it's a complex answer. Again, you have to calculate also whether or not it's too much in terms of your plan. If your plan's going to fail because you have most of your money in cash because you can't keep up with inflation with cash, then you got a different problem, right? So it's an interesting question. It really is. It comes up all the time. It's a big one.
Do you ever see like a change in state or like how much people have in the bank when they hit retirement age versus like when they're kind of accumulating money? So like maybe when I'm working, I only have 3 months of expenses, but now that I'm retired and I don't plan on ever going back, I'm going to keep 12 months of my expenses.
Yeah, no, I do see that. Yeah, because I think people, in general, not always, but I think people tend to be a little bit more aggressive when they have a paycheck, right? I mean, it makes it easier, as far as that goes, to be a little less cash, And a lot of the assets that you have that you would invest in still are liquid. You could get to them if you needed to, so that's good too. You're not locking it up where you can't get it at all for most things, at least what we deal with. Um, yeah, no, that's a good point, actually. And I do see more safety desire, at least mentally, from somebody who is retired. I wholeheartedly encourage that. There's lots of scary things heading into retirement in the first few years of retirement. If you can have a nice cash buffer, ideally have no mortgage either, right? So that would be ideal scenario to be in. Then you could really do well as far as that goes. So yeah, I think that that's a good point. Actually, yeah, it's definitely a little bit different, but still sort of personal, And again, there's lots of exceptions to that rule. I got young kids that are really, really want to gather lots of cash, and then I got older people that are much more aggressive. But generally, yeah, I'd say that's true.